Once again, I'm mixing it up, and today I'm going to do a collab with Good Mourning Nancy. And I'm sure you guys know of this podcast. I've spoken about it before. These are the lovely girls, Abby and Gracie. If you guys want to talk a little bit about your podcast and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here we go. Hi, guys. Hey, first of all, we want to thank Emma. Thank you so much for having us on your show. This is a dream come true for us. We love your work, so thank you. And Good Mourning Nancy was a podcast that I created a few months ago, and Abby, who has been a really good friend of mine for literally years, like since the day she was born, has been my friend.
Life.
And I called her up and I asked her, do you want to talk about horror movies on a podcast? Because I think that'd be fun. And she was like, yes, heck yes. And so here we are today. We talk about horror movies. We like to talk about women in horror movies especially. And we try to cover the Bechdel test as well.
Do you guys want to explain about what that is? Because I'm sure some of my viewers won't know.
Yeah. So the Bechdel test is a test that is done for movies where you can see if women get enough representation in the film by taking this test. So the test is you have to make sure that there's at least 2 women in the film. Both women have names, and both women talk to each other about something other than a man. So
yeah, and that could be any man, whether it's like their husband, boyfriend, brother, son, anything like that.
Yeah, they have to be talking about something other than a man. Like a really good example in The Babadook, there's a conversation that Amelia, the main character, has between her sister and her sister's friends, and they talk about her career when she was a writer. So that's a good example. That's one of the only examples in the film too, which is interesting.
Yeah.
When you watch films, you realize how much it's hardly in anything, and I thought you guys, if you didn't know about it, it might be really helpful for you, because it might sound a little bit far off, and I know a lot of my viewers are male, but it's really interesting because, like I'm sure you guys know, that it's not really in that many films.
Exactly. A really good example is Star Wars doesn't pass it.
Yeah,
so,
crazy.
Because Princess Leia is the only female in it, really. So except for Aunt Beru, but they don't talk. So.
Right, yeah.
Today we're gonna actually do something, I don't even know how we came up with this idea, I think is super interesting. I think that a lot of people can relate to. We're gonna talk about urban legends in your neighborhood, I guess is what we're gonna say, and we're gonna connect it back to horror and talk about kind of these urban legends, depending on it. I mean, my one is very kind of personal to my town, but I guess it's like a global thing where there's that witchy house on the street, or that creepy man. Maybe not the creepy man, that's a bit gross. And it can kind of come back to horror, and you guys know I love real things that are disturbing, but also real faces of horror. I like talking about real aspects, and this kind of connects the two, if that makes sense. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna each tell a little tale from our neighborhood, our childhood neighborhood. Who wants to start off? Gracie, did you want to start off?
Yeah, I'll totally start. Abby's like,
Yes, please.
So I actually grew up in a really rural part of town, in the middle of the woods to be exact. Like where people used to live here was mostly like farming, I guess. And then with the decline and the recession that was happening in the 30s, like people like moved out of their farms, like moved to the main city. So it's pretty much deserted. Like there's like a lot of deserted like stone foundations from old houses that were there. So I actually grew up in a really creepy haunted forest, which is kind of interesting.
Totally did. So scary.
So scary. And I didn't realize it was scary until I was older. And I was like, this isn't right. Anyway. So my parents used to tell me that when they were teenagers, because they went to the high school that's not that far from where I grew up, near the woods, they told me the stories about the Hook Man. And and I was like, always like, what the heck is the Hook Man? Apparently the Hook Man is a man, of course, who comes to your car while you're making out with your boyfriend or girlfriend, and the Hook Man story, and he like tries to attack you in the car, and you have to drive away before he gets to you. So that was sort of like something that came up for teenagers who were like making out, and it was like a way to like keep them out of doing crap like that, I guess. So that's where the Hookman comes from. Now, this story is sort of credible though, and let me tell you, there is a cemetery. There is a cemetery in the middle of the woods where I grew up, and there are a ton of Civil War soldiers buried there. One of them, and this is legit true, one of them was a man who lost his arm, and he was buried with a hook hand. Yes, and so this is like a thing. So I'm like, where did, this must have come from some sort of, a story of whatnot. So the Hookman basically like came from like Lover's Lane type stories where, it was a way to keep people from making out, when they shouldn't have been, I guess. And I guess like the Zodiac, right, the real killer, the Zodiac killer, like it was what really started like that whole ghost story of like that the guy is gonna come get you for like making out and stuff. But like other movies, I guess, that cover this are I Know What You Did Last Summer. He has like a hook.
That was the one I was thinking of. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then Candyman has a hook.
Oh, yeah.
And he is an urban legend, right?
Yeah.
In the movie.
Yep. Yeah.
So, so that, that can really relate to that. And of course, I don't know if in Australia, Emma, they have this, but there is the Hookman story that is actually told around like campfires about like the Hookman coming to get you in your car. So it's definitely stems from lore, definitely where we grew up.
Yeah.
So
I've heard the one with the guy's head, and they're banging the head on the top of the car. Have you heard that one?
No.
There's like two people in the car, and they hear a bang, 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 and they're like, "What is that?" And they're looking around, and they can't figure out what it is. Oh no, wait. There's one. Sorry, I'm already screwing it up. There's two people in the car. They're making out.
Okay.
They hear something, and then the guy gets out of the car and goes checks. And then the girl's still sitting there, and she still hears the bang, bang, bang.
Oh.
And she's like, "What is this?" And then keeps hearing the bang, bang, bang. And then all of a sudden there's sirens, and police are standing there, and they're like, "Get out of your car and don't turn around." And she walks, I can't believe you haven't heard this. This is like super common. She walks out of the car, and she turns around, and she sees like this crazy lunatic killer banging her like boyfriend's head on the like decapitated head on the car.
What? This is out of control.
I've heard that one.
Oh my god.
That is.
I don't think that's an Australian thing either. I think that's an American one. I can't imagine that would be an Australian story.
I'm gonna ask like all my friends now.
I seriously just learned about this.
Should.
I actually have a story with my dad, and he thought that he saw the Hookman.
Oh
yeah.
heck
Okay.
yes.
And it's a little funny. So my parents were just chilling out at home because they still live in the house that I grew up in. They're chilling at home, and they have a dog named Aster, and the dog starts barking. And my mom thinks that she hears like a small like tap on the door. And my mom says to my dad, she's like, "Hey, I think like I hear someone at the door." And my dad was like, "Oh, it's 11 o'clock at night. Who is here at the door?" And she was like, "Okay." And then she hears like another tapping noise, and the dog starts barking like wildly, like somebody's right outside. And my mom was like, "Look, I really think that you should check the door." And my dad was like, "No, really, it's probably nothing." And then it happens for a third time, and my mom was like, "Look, like I'm really scared. Like you should go check. The dog's freaking out." And he was like, "Okay, fine." He goes to the door thinking that no one's gonna be there. He opens it, and there is a human standing at the door. And he yells, he goes, "Ah!" And he shuts the door in that person's face. And before that even happens, the dog runs outside. So the dog is out there with the person. I know. And his dad was like, "Oh my God, the dog." And he opens the door, and it's this like scrawny like teenager who I guess was driving his car through the woods, and he got out to relieve himself, and he ended up locking himself out of his car.
Rookie move.
So
Really?
Rookie move. And so he had to walk to my parents' house and knock on their door and ask for help. And Of course, I'm thinking, like, he probably thought they were the Hookman family. My dad thinks there is a Hookman, and he said that he slammed the door and he said, I automatically thought, Hookman. Just a teenager.
Mine is like a little bit more of, like, I guess a couple people have experienced it before, but we live near like a big lake, and near this lake is an old fort from the Revolutionary War. So I used to work in a restaurant that was right next to the lake, and before my shift was about to start, I went and like parked up by the fort because the view up there is amazing for sunsets. Like, everybody goes up there. So I'm sitting there alone in the parking lot in front of the fort, and then there's like this huge field next to the fort, and I'm up there by myself, and out of the corner of my eye I see this guy like walk across the field towards the fort. And the fort closes early. It closes at like maybe like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So this random guy is like walking towards the fort, and he's got this blue jumpsuit on. And so I'm like, this is weird. Okay. So I like start my car up and I go to the restaurant to start my shift, and I'm talking to my coworker about it, and I'm like, you know, do you know of anybody who does maintenance up at the fort? Like, it's the middle of summer. I didn't really think that that was a thing. And she's like, no, I haven't really like ever noticed that or heard anything about it. So this older lady that I worked with she overheard our conversation, and she was like, oh, you're probably talking about the ghost soldier that's up there. And I was like, what? She's like, oh yeah, there's a soldier, and he's dressed in blue, and he's buried in the cemetery next to the fort. His name is William. Like, she's going on and on about this. Like, it's like a regular occurrence, and I had never heard about it or anything. So I was just like
it was her buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, William.
Yeah. I'm
what?
like, okay, that's cool.
That's insane.
But yeah, apparently it's like a local thing. So I got to see the soldier up there at the fort. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've actually seen like a ghost.
Yeah. Or what I think was a ghost. I'm sure it was. Like,
wow.
I'm a big believer in stuff like that, so.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I felt like gross afterwards though, because I was like, I thought it was just some random guy. No.
But aren't you kind of glad you didn't know before
Yes.
you saw him? Because
Yeah.
otherwise that would be really creepy.
Oh my god, I would have been a mess.
That kind of reminds me of that film. Have you guys seen We Go On?
I have heard about it, but I have not seen it.
Yeah, it's a recent film. I don't want to spoil it, but it definitely,
Nice.
has some kind of the same vibes.
Oh, I'm gonna have to see that though.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Nice.
What does it remind you guys of?
Blue suit? First thing I thought of was like Michael Myers in like a
Oh
jumpsuit.
yes! Oh my god.
But if it's like a Civil War suit, you know what it reminds me of? Is like Goosebumps.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like the Goosebumps TV show. Like, I feel like there's a lot of Civil War like soldiers in the Goosebumps stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So we have a friend who was driving along a very deserted road with his other friend, and they were very tired, right? And
It was like super late at night.
yeah, they were trying to find their friend's house. And our friend, his name is Alex, he was driving at the time, and he kind of felt like he was dozing off, and his other friend was kind of sleepy, but you know, they wanted to get to their friend's house before it got too late. So they're driving there, and they're both awake because they were talking to each other. And then what did Alex see in the middle of the road, Abby?
So they're driving down the road, and on the right-hand side was a cemetery, and he sees this girl in a long white nightgown.
No.
Just like come walking into the middle of the road.
No.
So she got down on all fours and ran across the street into the woods. Yeah.
That is
yeah.
the creepiest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I know. I like could not sleep after that because I knew the area that he was talking about. So I was like, well, never driving down there ever again.
Well, and your sister, her sister even said, oh, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about when she heard the story. Like, she had heard similar sightings in that area
Yeah.
of some creepy ass girl walking on all fours in her nightgown.
Wow, that's like Samara. So where I grew up was rural Australia. I grew up in a place called Darwin, which is quite tropical. It's up at the very, very top of Australia. And we used to have this legend in school about the Poinciana woman. And the Poinciana tree is this tropical, beautiful tree. This one particular has red flowers. They either have like yellow or red. And you know, there's big pods and everything. So there's this tree that's at the end of this long drive around the coast, and this coast is called East Point. And you used to dare kids to go out and drive to the very end because that's where the Poinciana tree was. And this Poinciana tree is famous because a woman haunts it because that's where she committed suicide. What the urban legend is, and there's so many different versions, but this is pretty much the basis of it, is she was raped by some sailors and she became pregnant. She got really depressed and then she hanged herself on the tree. And so now she returns to like young men, especially who come up and they drive up, you know, high schoolers think they're all cool, and you nobody until you go up to the Poinciana tree at night. And she appears to them like a beautiful woman, and then as soon as they like come close to her, she turns into like an old hag. So this is a story that I heard in school, and we used to always I drove up with my boyfriend from high school and all our friends, and we went up and like tried to touch the tree and stuff. But I didn't know that this story's actually been going on for like 40 years. And it's actually like the longest story, and everyone knows it. Like every single person knows it in the town.
That's insane.
Oh my god.
It reminds me of The Shining, room 237, where the girl, the lady, she appears beautiful.
Yes.
And then when you get in, and I don't know if you guys know the story behind her and how she came to be in that room. I'm not sure if you guys know.
Tell the story.
So she was actually at the hotel to have an affair with a man, and the man came and took her car and drove away, and then she committed suicide in the bathtub. So it's kind of similar in the way that I'm like scorned by, like, you know what I mean? Like a man has done something to her and then she's coming back to kind of get revenge on a woman.
Yes.
I wasn't sure if I'd be able to find any information on it because I moved years ago, like 10 years ago, and then I looked it up, and there's interviews, there's whole pages of people talking about it, so it's like an actual real known thing. 'Cause especially when you're a kid, you think, oh, did we make this up? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then you look back and everyone knows about it.
Right.
It's insane.
That's what's so great about urban legends is like so many times you think like, oh, this just must be something that me and my friends made up, but then you realize that everyone else in your community, it's sort of like this thing that connects your community together.
Yeah.
Like it brings together like a oneness in your community, and I think that's really kind of cool in a way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, death and destruction is not so cool.
I think it's like definitely with that story, it's something that brings the generations together because everyone has the same story, which is so interesting. You think it would change. Thank you guys so much for sharing with me. This was awesome. Like a little kind of ghost story swap.
I feel like we should have like marshmallows and chocolate.
I want to try a s'more. I've never had a s'more. That's like a
girl. We will show you how to have a good old time making s'mores.
We'll tell like ghost stories around the campfire.
I hope you guys enjoyed this video and us kind of swapping some ghost stories and urban legends. If you guys have any urban legends and ghost stories, please leave them in the comments below. We'd love to read them. And make sure you check out Good Mourning Nancy. I'll leave the link obviously below, and tell them that I said hi. And I hope you guys are having a great day. Stay spooky.
Bye.